Hello and welcome to our daily English news live right here on Tigray Media House. I'm Deletna Dawalko. Our headlines for today include President Uhuru Kenyatta and Secretary Blinken hold talks today, Tuesday, in Ethiopia in regards and Somalia over the situations taking place. Reports have emerged that over 250 Tigrayans have been massacred in the Afar region, and Eritrean troops are said to be killing civilians and looting properties in areas they still are occupying in the northern western of Tigray. President Uhuru Kenyatta and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday held talks over the escalating security situations in Ethiopia and Somalia elections. According to the State Department spokesperson Ned Price, the two leaders agreed that all parties should refrain from escalatory actions and statements. During the talks, Blinken expressed strong support of the United States for the mediation efforts by Uhuru and the AU Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Olusegun Obasanjo. In Ethiopia, they agreed on the urgent need for a cessation of hostilities, unhindered humanitarian access, and to end human rights abuses and violations, and a negotiated resolution to the conflict at hand, said Price. In Somalia, the secretary underscored the importance of Somalia's national and federal member state leaders concluding free and fair parliamentary and presidential elections immediately. Secretary Blinken noted that the U.S. opposition to the attempted suspension of Somalia Prime Minister Mohamed Roble. On Monday, Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed said he had suspended the Prime Minister's powers pending an investigation of accusations that Roble had acquired land fraudulently. Mohamed Roble's office in a statement responded saying the president's statement was outrageous and that he would continue discharging his duties as Prime Minister. As the atrocities continue, reports have emerged that over 250 Tigrayans have been massacred in the region of Afar. Tigrayans residing in Abala district of Afar region are being ethnically profiled, murdered, and forcibly displaced following the withdrawal of the Tigrayan forces from this area. Tigrayans who either fled the area for their lives or forcibly displaced said that they are worried about their loved ones that are still left behind. Let's listen to what they had to say.
I came from the town of Hudmo. Ethiopia forces and their allies are looting, harassing and killing Tigrayans. Those lucky are escaping, but those who are not are being killed. They said all Tigrayans must be evacuated from here. 4 of my family members are here, including me, but I don't know where my 5 children are. I couldn't help but leave them there.
They came into my house and took all my possession. I was born and raised there. I came here with my children. My mother's still back there and I don't know whether she survived the Holocaust or not.
They started rounding up farmers and torturing so many Tigrayans with no regard to their age. I came here with my 3 children. There were women who gave birth on the way here and died.
They first came into my house and intimidated me into giving them money and then left after I gave them all I had. Then they came back again and told us that we can't stay there and that we needed to leave the place immediately.
Agai Gabretakla, who's the administrator to the Enderta district, told Tigray TV that more than 250 Tigrayan residents of Abala district have been killed and more than 600 have been displaced and are now sheltered in his district. Here's him with further details.
More than 250 Tigrayans have been severely killed by Ethiopian National Defense Force, Eritrean Defense Force, and Afar Special Forces. Eritrean forces and Afar Special Forces are massacring Tigrayans. More than 600 people have been displaced from the district and are now sheltered here in the district of Enderta.
The Federalist Forces issued a statement denouncing the deeds of the Ethiopian National Defense Force and its allies and accused the Eritrean government of deploying its forces to the towns of Barhaile, Mile, Kuneba, Sakota, and Abala districts, preparing them to carry out yet another round of genocide on the people in the region of Tigray. Regardless of the fact that Ethiopia is one of the nations that has ratified the Geneva Convention of 1949 to protect civilians and their properties during an armed conflict, Ethiopia has committed numerous atrocities and it's on its own people and has openly supported collective punishment as a legitimate means of warfare. In related news, Eritrean troops are said to be killing civilians and looting properties in the areas of northwestern Tigray that they're still occupying. Chief Administrator of the Northwestern Tigray, Teklai Gabramedhin, said there are also signs that the regime of Eritrea's Isaias Afwerki is preparing to launch yet another aggression on the region of Tigray. Let's listen to him.
ሰራዊት ኢሳያስ ኣብ ዘዋና ከዝውን ቦታና ሒዝዎ ኢልግነ ናይ ሰራዊት መንግስቲ ናይ ኢሳያስ ሰራዊት
The army of Isaias Afwerki is still occupying swaths of territory in our zone, particularly in regions like Tata Adiabo, Bademe, Gamahalo, and Adi Tsarzar. In these areas, Isaias troops are committing extreme atrocities. They abduct people, at times they even execute people, loot livestock and other properties. This has continued unabated, and most recently, the Isaias regime carried out artillery on our zone. We're also seeing signs of interest to make further aggression on the region of Tigray.
ሃፍቲ እንስሳ ጥሪት ላዘረፉ ይወስዱ እዮም ለለው ከዝውን ኣይቋርጹ ኣብዘን ከባቢታት እዚኦም ብርክት ዝበለ መዓልቲ ጊዜ ደብዳቤ ካይዱ እዩ
Our last news for today is about Norwegian professor Kjell Tranvoll says the alternative to peace in Ethiopia is the country's political and economic collapse. In an article titled Peace or Continued War in Ethiopia, Kjell Tranvoll, who is professor of peace and conflict studies at Oslo New University, said Ethiopia is balancing on the precipice between continued war and the beginning of peace talks. Kjell, who while mentioning military and political factors that continued to the Tigray armed forces pullback, attributed the halting of the final offensive in Addis Ababa more importantly to the diplomatic pressure put to bear on the Tigrayan government. In particular, he mentioned the U.S.'s unequivocal opposition to such advance. Tranvoll recognized that Tigray's leadership are astute internationalists who put great efforts into maintaining and balancing international relations, adding that this meant that they were hesitant to continue and advance on Addis in the face of a broad-based international opposition. He said speculations as to whether this is a confidential agreement between U.S. and Tigray government on a peace deal with Ethiopian government is ripe, but none of the parties have confirmed this. In the article published by Democracy in Africa, Tranvoll said that while the withdrawal of the Tigrayan forces back to their home region has opened a window for political talks between Ma'ala and Addis Ababa, it is still unclear whether the Ethiopian government and its allies will seize the opportunity to pursue a genuine peace negotiations. Political resolutions of the crisis first requires an agreement on mutual cessations of hostilities that may lead to a ceasefire agreement, paving the way for a comprehensive and inclusive peace negotiations to find a durable solution to Ethiopia's integral political challenges. For the time being, the Tigrayan government is tactically supporting an active Western and primarily U.S. and European effort at peace diplomacy directed at encouraging the Ethiopian government to accept the talks. However, Tranvoll said President Debretsion informed him in a satellite conversation last week that the window of opportunity is extremely brief, saying, "We have a huge army intact and cannot sit idle to watch our population starve to death," Tranvoll quoted Debretsion's statement. The Ethiopian government, on the other hand, is interpreting Tigray's call for a cessation of hostilities as a sign of military weakness and may question why they should give any concessions to a defeated enemy. He added Ethiopia has abjurtly rejected what is termed a neo-imperialist interference into a sovereign matter and has called out on the US and the EU as a supporter of Tigray's forced agenda. It is therefore questionable how effective Western pressure upon Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed will in fact be, he said. An additional element of concern is the obvious fact that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed does not have an authority over all of his allies in the war against Tigray, and it seems that equally doubtful that President Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea or the Amhara leadership will accept a peace process, which, for instance, entails accountability for the Eritrean atrocities committed on Tigrayan civilians, or for the Amhara to return to the west of Tigray back to the control of Ma'ala. So even if Abiy Ahmed hypothetically may be interested in settling the dispute with the Tigrayan leadership, he may not be allowed to do so by his brother in arms. According to Professor Chanvol, the alternative might be a prolonged and very devastating guerrilla war that would risk driving the country to the brink of a political and economic collapse. Chanvol called on the ongoing war in Ethiopia the largest armed conflict in the world in the year of 2021, and if this window of opportunity for peace talks is missed, it will likely continue to be the world's biggest armed conflict in the next year of 2022 and beyond. That concludes our news for today. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe. Goodbye.
عدوي حد تقالتي أجزع بحتي أمالي سمس عبدي